welcome to our webinar where we're going to be exploring how to build AI-powered chatbots in life sciences applications with AWS Bedrock and Dataiku. I am the lead of AI solutions for healthcare and life sciences at Dataiku, and I'm joined here with Rumi Olson from AWS as well as Shashank Gar from Dataiku. The agenda for today is going to be a quick overview of the AWS Bedrock capabilities as well as our Dataiku LLM Mesh capabilities done by Rumi and Shashank, and then overview of an application into life sciences specific to the clinical operations space and how we actually can build that and show a demo, following that with Q&A at the end. With that, I will turn it over to Rumi to introduce herself and show us what we have with Bedrock.
Thank you, Kelsey. Hi, everyone. My name is Rumi Olson. I'm our AI ML Partner Solutions Architect at the AWS. I'm very excited to be here today for this presentation to showcase Dataiku and Bedrock story. So Bedrock is a fully managed service that offers a choice of high-performing foundation models from leading AI companies, including AI21 Labs, Anthropic, Cohere, Meta, Stability AI, and Amazon. With that choice, Bedrock offers a broad set of capabilities that you need to build generative AI applications. Our core value propositions are model choice, data privacy, and customization. In this presentation, I'm going to go over customization in the next few slides. Customers want to be able to choose the right foundation model for their needs and customize the model securely without exposing the underlying data to the foundation model. And that is without data leaving the dev environment. You can customize foundation models privately with your data using techniques such as fine-tuning and RAG, generative augmented generation, and create managed agents. Since Amazon Bedrock is serverless, you don't have to manage any infrastructure, and you can securely integrate and deploy generative AI capabilities into your applications using the AWS services you are already familiar with. We currently offer Jurassic 2 from AI21 Labs, Titan from Amazon. We offer text generation, text and multimodal embeddings, and image generation models. Cloud 2 and 3 from Anthropic, command models and embedding models from Cohere, Llama 2 and 3 from Meta, Mistral models from Mistral AI, and last but not least, Stable Diffusion models from Stability AI. So each model brings its own strengths. For example, Llama 3 is designed for developers, researchers, and businesses to build, experiment, and responsibly scale generative AI ideas. Llama 3 AB is ideal for use cases that have limited computational power and resources, and for edge devices. Llama 3 70B is ideal for content creation, conversational AI, language understanding, research, development, and enterprise applications. So what is really going to help drive your business is generative AI that knows what is important to your customers, your products, and your business. And that is only possible when you customize models with your data. When you want to build generative AI applications that are unique to your business needs, your data is a differentiator. Data is a key to moving from generic applications to generative AI applications that create real value for your customers. So how do you go about customizing these models with your data? A common technique used to customize foundation models is fine-tuning. With fine-tuning, you can provide labeled datasets which are annotated with additional context to train the model on specific tasks. So you can also leverage your unlabeled datasets or raw data to maintain the accuracy of your foundation model for your domain through continued pre-training. For example, healthcare company can continue to pre-train their model using medical journals, articles, research papers to make it more knowledgeable on industry terminology. And Amazon Bedrock removes the heavy lifting from the model customization process. And fine-tuning continued pre-training jobs can be created through the AWS console. It will walk you through step-by-step What you will have to do is to prepare a dataset, provide a dataset location in S3, and set IAM role and hyperparameters. What if you have a model that was fine-tuned in other environments? Currently, public preview, we offer a custom model import feature. It allows you to import foundation models that you have customized in other environments. For example, you might have a model that you created in Amazon SageMaker that has a proprietary model weights. You can now import that model into Amazon Bedrock and then leverage Amazon Bedrock features to make inference calls to the model. Bedrock supports three models. Bedrock supports three model architectures currently. Mistral, a decoder-only transformer-based architecture with sliding window attention and options for grouped query attention. Flan, an enhanced version of the T5 architecture and encoder-decoder-based transformer model. And lastly, Llama 2 and 3, an improved version of Llama with the grouped query attention. It supports Hugging Face safe tensors, which is a format created by Hugging Face that stores model weights and tensors. Before you can use custom model import, you must first request a quarter increase for the imported model per account quarter. Just like fine-tuning continued pre-training features, Amazon Bedrock make it easy. From the AWS console, it will walk you through step-by-step to import a model. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Shashank.
Hey everyone. So we'll start with a quick overview of Dataiku for those who are not familiar, go through the LLM mesh capabilities, and then we jump into the demo. So Dataiku is an analytics workbench solution. It sits on top of organization infrastructure, such as AWS, as Rumi describes. It provides capabilities for developers to build analytics application by providing visual as well as coding capabilities for all different kinds of personas. So whether you're a business SME or you're a coding expert like data engineer, data scientist, you have built-in features and processes that can help you build analytics application on Dataiku. It creates a self-serve analytics environment within an organization where everyone can contribute to the analytics based on their skill set. It comes up with some central services sitting on top, like proper governance, versioning, auditability, and it sits on top of your cloud infrastructure like AWS. Last year, we launched Dataiku LLM Mesh. It's a set of capabilities for both ops as well as for developers to build GenAI application and scale them within the organization. As you can see in the shared screen, the bottom half listed out the capabilities for ops. So you have built-in cost management to track all the LLM providers. You have connectivity for both hosted LLM as well as you can self-host the open source LLM within Dataiku. And then you have security guardrails like PI detection, toxicity detection, audit capabilities, caching capabilities, the basic capabilities that you require across your LLM connections to build GenAI applications securely. Now, on the top of it, you see some capabilities for developers, which help expedite the development cycle of GenAI application. So you have built-in no-code recipes to run like NLP tasks like sentiment analysis, text extraction, now powered through LLM models. We have prompt studios, which helps you do prompt engineering visually. And there's certain additional features like set of AI assistants that help you write code faster or prep the data faster. We also launched a plugin named Dataiku Answers, which is a built-in chatbot fully customizable as part of our developer applications within LLM Mesh. This is currently being used by 50 plus enterprise users. It's available as a plugin. So if you have a Dataiku subscription, you can request that. In this chatbot, you can fully customize the front-end visual screen, as well as you can choose to connect to your own LLM models, to your own knowledge bank data sets, and also define your own prompts to let the app follow the instructions and get the responses for the users. Now, before we jump into the demo, let's talk about the use case that we are building the solution for. So I'll ask Kelsey to walk us through with this use case, and then we jump into the actual solution.
Thank you, Shashank. Happy to do so. So We have over 50 plus customers in the healthcare life sciences space, many of which are already investing in generative AI technologies as well as AWS technologies and the underlying infrastructure and tech stack needed to power more and more Gen AI applications. A large component of that is the idea of creating enterprise chatbots. In this case, the example we're going to walk through is using clinical trial data. And so clinical trials is an essential component of bringing a therapeutic product to the market. It's also one of the most costly and time consuming. And it's critical to design trials well, understand the protocols that are needed to recruit patients, the sites, the locations that we use in order to execute this critical milestone for bringing a new therapy, both safely and with efficacy to the market. Now, many teams in life sciences organizations, whether that's a sponsor like a drug manufacturer, medical device manufacturer, or even health services and tech services, manually have to use a lot of external data or internal, or ideally both, to really understand what is an optimal protocol? What are the optimal sites that we can use for a clinical trial? And so what we've done in this example is take information sourced from registered clinical trials to clinicaltrials.gov. And instead of that manual exploration of competitive intelligence of sponsors using certain sites or trends or patterns in designs or protocols or enrollment characteristics tied to site locations, what we've done is we've taken that source of data, which actually includes quite a large source of both structured and unstructured information around clinical trial protocols, and pushed that into this Dataiku Answers RAG-enabled chatbot application. And the value of this is that now we can actually go into automating, asking questions to this large resource of data on optimal trial design or how to plan for novel studies, seeing patterns in recruitment or patterns in the use of certain principal investigators or certain sites, understanding the eligibility criteria so that we can better have success in these critical components of our trials. And so this is the example that Shashank is going to walk through building the application, and then I'll show what it looks like in practice.
Thank you, Kelsey. So now as a developer, I worked with Kelsey. I identify what are the key things required to build this solution. So the first thing I need to define what is the infrastructure requirement. So I need a storage where I can store all this data from clinicalsite.gov. I'm going to use AWS S3 for that. Then I need to do some text pre-processing to clear the data, create the corpus that will go and create embeddings for. So I'm going to use Dataiku Elastic Compute, which is powered by AWS EKS. And I need access to our LLMs, so embeddings as well as chat completion models. So for that, I'll be connecting to Amazon Bedrock. So let's see how we can do that. In Dataiku, you go to under administrations, and under connection, you can set up all the connectivity to all AWS services as well as other services. So under new connection, you have access to SQL databases. Under cloud storage, here we can create an S3 connection. So as long as you have some IAM role to connect to, you can create your own connection or request an admin to create that. Similarly, under LLM Mesh, you can connect to the model hosted on AWS Bedrock as well as SageMaker. So if we have some custom model hosted on SageMaker, you can set up connectivity in Dataiku. And to quickly look into the Bedrock connection, you can create multiple connections. You can select from all these listed models available, both chat completion as well as text embedding models. On top of it, if you have your own custom fine-tuned or pre-tuned model, you can also connect to it using the add custom model parameter. On top of it, you can assign access, like who can see this connection while developing applications. You can create different connections for different teams based on their cost centers, assign them different model access accordingly. You can enable caching that will help you save cost, as well as you can choose what level of auditability you need to capture, like audit logs you need to capture. You can choose not to capture or just metadata or the complete query and response data. This information will be available as a data set in Dataiku, which over time you can do archive or backup. Other than that, you have this set of security hooks available where you can add a forbidden term. For example, you do not want to push any your customer organization customer names or some compliance information data that you do not want to share. You can apply these guardrails both at query as well as response and enable them to work on the connection. So with this, we completed the setup. Now let's talk about the flows that I need to build. So the first thing I need to do, I need to create a pipeline where I can continuously get data, refresh data from the website because LLM are not up to date on the latest data, and then keep creating embeddings. So the reason why we are doing it, we are following a RAG architecture, which is retrieval augmented generation. In this case, we keep creating set of documents which we feed into LLM with the latest information to respond on. So the first step I have is to get the data, all this data from the website, do text pre-processing. And this is the place where you do the heavy lifting. You need to clean your data, create the appropriate features that you're required, create the whole corpus which is going to feed into the embeddings. The second step is once you have this all the document identify and the metadata, you use an embedding LLM to generate embeddings and then store into a vector store or a vector database. So that's the second step. So let's do that process. So we have this project created in Dataiku. Every project in Dataiku has its home screen. On the right hand side, you can, as a project owner, you can see the full revision history of who's making what changes. You provide access to the developers who can work on it. This has a Git integration, so that you can create multiple branches of a project as well as add tags to make it easily discoverable at an organization level. So flow is where we design the project. So here you see what we're doing is, this is the whole data preparation pipeline that we have. So we have the source data, which we have downloaded from this website. And as you can see, it's get loaded. It has around 200 plus columns plus around 16,000 rows that we have downloaded. It's data from 2017 to current date. It's a set of all the protocol IDs with the associated information. So you can quickly start analyzing the data set to see, okay, whether this column is unique or not. As you can see, this looks all unique. What kind of distribution you have in certain columns, which columns are like put it as a string or array. And then this will help you work with your business SME to identify, okay, what columns I needed to move forward with. What are the changes I need to make in this data to even prepare for it. And then once you start identifying those changes, you start applying that. So all these square icons you see is a data set in Dataiku. And this, all the circle icons is what we call recipes. That's where you apply the transformation or the business logic. So here you see we have this all yellow icons. These are all visual or no code recipes, as well as you have full coding capabilities like Python, R, which you can apply on this. So the first step we did, we just removed the columns that we don't need. So remove around 129 columns. And within the prepare recipe, you see we have around 110 processors, all way to handling logs data to geographical data available for you. When you apply these changes, these are just applied on the sample. When you're satisfied with those, you can run it on an engine. Since this data is in S3, will be running on Spark, which will be running again on AWS EKS. If this was a database, you see the in-database option available for you. Similarly, if it's Hadoop, you have this Hadoop option available for you. So first thing we did, we apply this change, and then we get the data loaded. Then we worked with the SMEs, like what other kind of filters we need to apply. So we use a filter recipe to further filter out the data. One of the things that we identify, there are certain values which are available as an array. For example, for me, collaborators information is important, but now this is available as multi-dimension array. So I need to flatten that out and make sure it is properly tagged, converted into such a string that LLM can understand. So for that, again, I'm going to take advantage of prepare recipe. And if I just turn off these steps, you see how does that work. So just for this, what I'm trying to get is map the NCT ID used and the collaborator's name, so that which I can add it as a mask to the master data at the end. So the first step I run is just keeping the columns NCT ID and collaborator. I don't need rest of the columns. Secondly, I quickly fold the array into multiple. So you see we exploded the data with more 8,000 rows. It's good that we are only working on this two set. Then we unnest the object. So it will automatically get the keys and then convert into columns, keys and values. And we see these are multiple entries now for one. So we create a concatenated column, just like writing an Excel type formula, to join the multiple values so that we still have just one row for each. And then at the end, we remove the additional columns that we don't need anymore. and just have the final column that we generate. So this is to show how quickly we can do this data cleaning, data prep. Even you can work on this with a business SME on a call to showcase what changes you are making. And since they are the data expert, they can tell you what exact modifications you need to make. Similarly, we applied this on multiple data sets, and at the end, we join all these data sets into one. The last thing that is required is to create the whole corpus, like one single column for which we create an embedding. So in the formula, we decided to concat title, summary, enrollment count, eligibility criteria, and the rest of the columns will be tagged as metadata so that this can be used by users as a filter as well as comes up in the sources as a tags, which users can use to rate the answers. And then we also created a URL column so that whenever that response comes, users can use directly a website URL to go into that study protocol and read about it by just adding the default URL with the NCT ID. Now with this, we completed the step. We have the data text pre-processing ready. Data is ready to go. The next step is just click on the data set, use this LLM powered recipes. We have embedding recipe. To embedding, you provide the column for which you want to generate the embedding. You select all the columns that you want to be part of the metadata. So these columns will be tagged with every embedding created. And you can add any number of columns from here. Then you define how many records, minus one is we are processing all the records, how you want to split the documents, chunk size, chunk overlap, it all depends on which model you're using, how much token it can take while processing it. So here, if you see, we are using AWS Titan embeddings G1, it can take up to 8K tokens. So that's a very large limit. Let's simplify the process for us. This is where you can choose a model that you want to tag on this. Then choose a vector store type, Face, ChromaDB, Pinecone, and then the coding environment. So we came up with a default coding environment, but you can, if you want to choose using LangChain behind the scenes, if you want to choose some other version, you can choose to that. And then you also identify which LLM models you want this knowledge bank to work with. So we have Cloud V2, we have Cloud 3 Haiku, as well as Titan Text G1 Lite. You can define how many documents to retrieve for each one of them. You can even add advanced usage, like add additional messages for the chain orchestrator to provide to knowledge bank to retrieve these documents. Now, once you do this, then you generate the embeddings, and now you have the knowledge bank ready. So with this, we completed this step. We have the vector store ready to go. Now, what is required for this, like how the user flow will work. So in a chatbot application, start with like user entering a question, submit it. Then you have a chain orchestrator like LangChain, which orchestrate all these steps together. So the next step is first get an embedding of that question so that you can use that number to do similarity search and get the documents. So for this, you're again going to use the same embedding LLM model. The next step is to do the similarity search on the vector database, get the relevant documents that you will send it to the LLM model. Then you construct a prompt, like you want have some, this is a normal format for RAG. So you have instruction, then you have question, and then you have set of documents. Instructions are usually that you're this kind of, consider you this kind of expert, use these documents to answer this question, and do not answer if you do not find this question, if you do not find any relevant documents in the vector database. And then you prompt the LLM with all these instructions. That's where your chat completion LLM come in picture. Now the LLM will going to provide the responses, your chain orchestrator attach the responses with the sources, and that's what user sees on the screen. Now all the steps from the from 2 to 7 is something that Answers app has bundled it and created into one app with full customization, where you can choose your embedding model, you can choose your vector store, you can design your own prompt, you can choose your chat completion model, you can even choose how the face of the screen should look like. So now let's go back to that. Now, one thing I wanted to do is that I wanted to do prompt engineering first to see what is the right prompt that I add on top of user's question so that I get the proper response. So that's where the use of prompt studios come in picture. Within prompt studios, you have multiple different kinds of prompt you can create. You can choose to use managed mode, which is pre-built prompt for specific use cases, and advanced mode where you can fully customize your own prompt with like system message, instruction message, all the settings. And then prompt without inputs is more of just single shot prompt testing or comparing some LLM model. So here we are using advanced prompt. Here you can see I have access to all the models from the dropdown. I can either directly hit a Bedrock model, or I can use the retrieval augmented, which is my knowledge bank. As you can see, the 3 models we configured are all 3 available here. You provide the user message. Anything that you put as an input, you can push that from a data set. So we have a sample data sets with sample questions. So we are using that, providing that. And then this is an advanced system message where you can see I'm asking it to assigning what kind of role LLM model has to play. These documents, definition of these documents, that this repository contains study information, summary, title, and everything. And then I'm also giving guideline like do this, provide a response in a pointed format, make sure you cite multiple resources. And this thing you do over iteration. You keep doing prompt engineering, compare different models, and then you came up with a final prompt that, okay, this is my instruction should look like for the app to work. Then you see you will have the results on the right hand side. You just click run and it will run on this data set. So I have this one on with embeddings on Cloud V2. And then this is directly I'm hitting Cloud 3 without embedding. So this is where you can like click compare and compare the responses. You can also see the estimated cost. Since this is running on just 2 sample questions, but if you have to productionize it, you can take cost into consideration to take a decision which model to use. So the type of response as well as the cost is the like 2 decision making things which will help you to move forward. Now, once I'm satisfied with a particular prompt, I can save it as a recipe and it will become part of my flow. I can use this to keep pushing sample questions, evaluating the model over time, or using the feedback coming from the answers app, like use those questions which users has responded as positive, maybe as a trained data set. If you choose in future to pre-tune the model or fine-tune the model, you can directly use that. Now, this is where I'm going to go and create my app. So now I have the knowledge bank created, embedding models. I have my prompt ready, doing my prompt engineering. Now I just need to go and define the app. So in Dataiku, you can create your own code web app in different languages, Shiny, Dash, Bokeh, or you can choose to use a built-in visual web app. You have multiple different web apps built in for you, which you can customize and configure. So this is, you can see the answers web app that we are talking about. I already have one instance created. Just jump into the edit screen. So this is where you can see you can assign a logging database. It will log every query and response. You can have the feedback choices for users, like based on what they click, positive or negative, they will get these options. You have different ways of categorizing it. And this is very important because you can use this data to define how good your app is performing. You can even use the information to take positive output and then use it to further prompt engineer your model or fine tune your model in future. Then you can also have some text feedback user, which you can collect, define your LLM, choose the knowledge bank, define your knowledge bank, like some kind of business name to it. Then you can put, this is the prompt that I practiced and built in prompt engineering, and then I put it here. Additional prompt for your prompt system like knowledge bank. And you can see you can define how many documents to retrieve, search type. See, Cloud V2 can take up to 200K of tokens. So that's a very large model available. And Cloud 3, I think it can take up to 300K. So that's an advantage we have. We can send big documents with lot of guidelines for the model to respond on. Now you can assign all the metadata that you want users to use it as a filters, as well as show up in the sources. And then at the end, this is the front end of the screen where you can define the title of the app, icon you can assign sample questions, and then you can choose where you want to run this app on. By default, it will run on the same machine Dataiku install, or you can, for auto scaling, you can use attached EKS cluster in Dataiku and host it on a container. So that completes my app, ready to go. And now I'll again hand it over back to Kelsey to show us a demo from an end user perspective on how they can consume this information and take advantage of it. So Kelsey, hand it over to you.
Thank you, Shashank. Let me bring up my screen now and share the same project from the view of how we could explore it in application. All right, so here we see that same screen, but I want to back up a little bit. So the source of this data is actually from one of the solutions that we have built at Dataiku called Clinical Site Intelligence, which queries clinicaltrials.gov and builds different visual and machine learning applications or deliverables in order to understand when, say, looking at a novel study, similar studies that have been registered to clinical trials, and even further being able to curate that and explore it into different site metrics of those clinical trials and the site review used at that site. Now, we recognize that that source and that query is a very powerful source of information. And so here again, we see that data set as it was prepared that led into the embedding that Shashank showed. And we see actually you can still do a lot of traditional analytics in this and understanding in this set that we're pushing to the Dataiku answers, all the different phases, the different therapeutic areas. This is a query that we've built just to looking at active cancer or oncology trials that have site locations in the US. And then we can also see many of the common sponsors that are executing these trials. So this is the data source that we've pushed into our Dataiku answer application. And you can see already there's a lot of capabilities here. I've been exploring, like what Shashank showed, the different applications, the different types of questions I can ask it. One of the things that was in the setting is the ability to let the large language model decide if the knowledge bank is necessary. So of course you can go out to something like a public chatbot that can give you a lot of information on clinical trials. So if you ask what are the kind of stages of a clinical trial, this is a place where we customize it to say, go out and use that information if the knowledge bank isn't required. So we can understand the different components of of the phases of a clinical trial very easily here. In the chat window, though, of course, this is where we can also curate and ask those specific questions that we know are going to require that RAG-powered information. So we're sourcing now where we really want to understand trials that are recruiting for non-small cell lung cancer, for example. And you can see a quick summary. Of course, now we didn't request to bring back the comprehensive stage, but we can see a quick summary of some of the pivotal or active clinical trials relevant to that query. So we can see them starting to come out with information that can help us understand maybe this is something a health tech would want to use around advising patients to enroll in clinical trials. You can corroborate this by sourcing the links into that. A lot of this was put into the prompt where you can say specifically, if you're citing a specific clinical trial, make sure you hyperlink so that we can go out and actually curate all of that information as it's posted to clinicaltrials.gov. And we can see that we have quite a few studies that are active or recruiting in this space. Like Shashank said, a big component of building these kind of chatbots yourself is the ability to build in your own feedback, right? And tailor that and further improve the accuracy of the retrieval that's happening in the summaries that you get. And so being able to do this is something that we could do in order to curate and continue to make the best prompts available and the best use of the metadata that's available. For example, sometimes when I run this, I get active studies that aren't recruiting. And that's a place where you could choose to actually put explicitly your own filter in place. It's also a place where you can continue to ask questions on top of it, though. So here I could be saying, what are kind of typical patterns and eligibility criteria across these lung cancer studies? It could also be the idea of asking questions around the researchers that are involved with it or the sites that are being used for that. Examples of how that could look, for example, looking at leading researchers, here we can see looking at a summary of principal investigators that might be involved in a breast cancer study. We could even think of asking questions around new technologies and new therapies, right? The advent of gene therapy. Where and how is that being applied in clinical trials? And so basically we're taking this source and allowing you to just converse with it to get information curated to the large database. And this could also be your internal database of clinical trials to better perform this pivotal component of bringing a drug to the market. And so this is just one example, of course, of building a chatbot, specific in this case to understanding perhaps competitive intelligence or site intelligence or study intelligence in planning or executing clinical trials. But in life sciences, we've heard so many applications for this enterprise chatbot functionality. More and more, we're seeing it used in understanding the sentiment in medical affairs or medical science liaisons and really understanding this large source of unstructured data as we might bring a drug to the market and how we engage with the healthcare market. We also see it going deeper where chatbots can become that digital experience to enhance patient support specific to safety or efficacy or concerns with taking a new medicine or adopting a new medicine or a new therapy. A large application, of course, is exactly what I showed, understanding market or regulatory intelligence as you build your own pipeline. We all know in life sciences, it's a very, very expensive and time-consuming process to bring a new product or therapy to the market. And understanding the relevance of that therapy, the newest technologies that it's using is a heavy benefit to these companies as they make these deep investments in patient care. And of course, there's a lot of internal applications that we've started to see. And some of these are the ones that people speed to right away. And so the idea of just internal efficiency is also a great application for this. We've seen some of our customers now putting over thousands of users on Dataiku answers powered by an LLM in the background like Bedrock or LLM infrastructure. I think with that, we are ready to wrap up and take any questions specific to the content that we've shared today. And I see we have a few here. I think the first one is for Rumi. How does Amazon Bedrock ensure the data that's used in fine-tuning remains both private and confidential?
So when you're fine-tuning a model, your data is never exposed to the public internet, never leaves the AWS network. It securely transfers through your VPC and is encrypted in transit and at rest. Amazon Bedrock also enforces the same AWS access controls that you have with any of our other services.
Thank you. The next one is actually for Shashank, specific to the Answers application that we shared. Can it or how does this Answers application scale to thousands of users?
Yep, very good question. So the scaling is in multiple folds since we are using Bedrock models. So on the LLM side, you don't need to worry about scaling. Bedrock automatically scales. It's a serverless application for you, and you just pay as per the usage. On the user session side, like if you want to put it for 1,000 users, 2,000 users, Dataiku behind the scene uses containerized app in an EKS. So you can also scale with the EKS capability or to multiple sessions. You can even launch multiple instances of the same app for different regions or different set of users. So yeah, no issue with the scalability. Just we need to configure that based on the requirement.
Thank you, Shashank. And a follow-up question, I think, to Rumi's earlier answer. What are the security and compliance standards that Bedrock supports?
Very good question. So Amazon Bedrock complies with various security and privacy standards such as SOC, ISO, HIPAA, GDPR, and Amazon conducts extensive third-party audits to demonstrate the compliance with these standards for Bedrock and other services. And Bedrock is also certified with CSA Star Level 2, validating its security posture and best practices. And then user data is not used to improve base models or shared with model providers, ensuring privacy. And lastly, AWS Private Link can be used to establish private connectivity between Amazon VPC and Bedrock, avoiding exposure of data to the internet.
Thank you. And I can comment, I know many of our customers that are leveraging AWS Bedrock are very grateful for those capabilities so that we have a secure environment for these new type of applications and initiatives to let them really challenge what they can do with this new technology. And I love that you shared so many of the new applications that are going into Bedrock and new models. This is probably a question for both you and Shashank. What is the timeline and what does it look like for getting new Bedrock models available in Dataiku?
I can answer that. So as of today, with this custom LLM option within the Bedrock connection, as soon as the model available, you can directly attach to Dataiku and start using it. As part of the releases, yes, we very closely work with the AWS partner team, myself, and then keep updated so that we try to go launch together, even sometime in a GA as well as in a private preview. So yeah, so users always have an option to add on your own, and then with the releases, you will get the updated icon within the connection.
Thank you, Shashank. The last one is actually for me, or I'll take it, and Shashank can comment as well. What we demoed today is that project available for our Dataiku and AWS customers. It is currently, as I mentioned, the source information for the demo that Shashank showed, and then the answers application is built from our clinical site intelligence. So that's a solution that's already available with Dataiku, as is the answers visual web application. So you can request that if you're a Dataiku customer. And I think this is also a place where we intend to show how we can extend some of our solutions like our clinical site intelligence with Gen AI enabled features like a chatbot on top to ask conversational information of unstructured and maybe even structured data in the future with that web application. So both Dataiku is available, and the source of that information that Shashank walked through is in our clinical site intelligence solution.
Yeah, thanks, Kelsey. And just one thing to add on is we have lots of planned more integrations coming up with Bedrock. We already have a very tight integration with Bedrock and SageMaker. And you see slowly we have more and more visual features, making it easy for you to take advantage of this wide range of APIs that Bedrock offer directly from Dataiku in a no-code, low-code, as well as in a coding fashion. Yep. Thank you all for signing in.
Thank you guys all. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.